You see why I said that she should have been on Team USA? You see why I had to go off on the likes of Cheryl Swoops and others who were clearly distant and dismissive of her, no matter how much they try to deny it? There was resentment towards her, and here's why I said it was stupid.
Stephen A. just lit up the internet with a fiery opinion on the WNBA. And now everyone's losing their minds. Why would Stephen A. risk his career and reputation like this? Before he got caught in the middle of the WNBA drama, Stephen A. Smith was already tangled in controversy, this time involving none other than LeBron James. It all began subtly, with Smith sharing his signature strong opinions on ESPN's First Take Asterisk. But this time, he stepped into risky territory by questioning Bronny James' credibility as a future NBA player. And the reason behind it might surprise you. Stephen has suggested that Bronny's road to the league had more to do with his last name than his actual talent. It didn't take long for LeBron to fire back, both on social media and during sideline interviews. LeBron pushed back against the narratives surrounding his son and accused Stephen A. of using his platform to tear others down.
First Take, my day job on ESPN earlier this morning, and I spoke about this, and I felt the need to elaborate even further because a couple of people text me and pissed me off, and they know who they are. People close to LeBron James talking to me about questioning him as a father. Come on, y'all. I mean, it's got to a point where this LeBron sensitivity is just beyond the pale. You call him the second best player in the history of the game, you're insulting him because you said he's not the GOAT. You're saying that at age 40, we've never seen anybody do what he does, but pointing out at times how he may not have hustled back on defense in a key pivotal moment, and that's a problem. You give him all the praise in the world when he drops 40, but he has a bad night, and you say he had a bad night, and you're hating. It's ridiculous. But never before has it been more ridiculous than it is right now, because the reality is that we got to be real about what we're seeing when we talk about.
The feud dragged on for weeks, with fans, analysts, and even former NBA players weighing in. But then, things took an even wilder turn. The timing couldn't have been worse, just as the drama with LeBron was starting to die down. Stephen A. jumped into another heated debate, this time defending Caitlin Clark. Now, Clark herself hadn't done anything remotely controversial. Her rising popularity in the WNBA and the way the league and media embraced her, however, rubbed some people the wrong way. Especially considering how long black female athletes have fought for even a sliver of that recognition, and just like that, Stephen A. stepped in again. He argued that Clark was being unfairly targeted for things outside of her control, insisting she deserved praise, not backlash.
Clark, right? The Indiana Fever star was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year earlier this week, and she took time to acknowledge that race played a role in her success this year. Here's a passage from the article in Times Magazine. Quote, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing," end quote. You see why I had no problem with her being Times Athlete of the Year? You see why I said that she should have been on Team USA? You see why I had to go off on the likes of Cheryl Swoops and others who were clearly distant and dismissive of her, no matter how much they try to deny it? There was resentment towards her, and here's why I said.
But what if I told you that's not even the worst part? By stepping in, Stephen unknowingly opened up a whole new can of worms. Critics quickly started drawing comparisons between how he treated LeBron's family and how he defended Clark. Some felt there was a clear double standard. Why call up Bronny for gaining opportunities through his father's fame, yet go out of his way to shield Clark, who also benefits from extraordinary media attention. And here's the thing, this part changes everything.
Into the WNBA. For 22 plus years, they had been flying commercial. They were begging for chartered flights. She arrives there, and 2 weeks later, they got chartered flights. She automatically and instantaneously improved the conditions. Attendance is still lagging. WNBA is still losing money compared to what you would hope it would earn, but clearly things are on an upward trending trajectory. It's improving, and she has everything to do with it. Attendance for Indiana Fever games? Are you kidding me? WNBA draft, games on ABC, ESPN, television ratings. She's directly responsible. And people were resenting her for it, like she was the cause of the problems that they had for the lack of recognition. No, she just happened to be born white.
This comparison started to shift how people saw Stephen A's approach to commentary. Was he genuinely standing up for fairness, or was he just chasing headlines, hopping from one controversy to the next? But here's what most people completely overlook. Stephen A has always cast himself as the voice of reason in sports. Someone who tells it straight, no matter what. Yet in today's evolving WNBA era, where discussions around race, gender, and fame demand more nuances loud, no filter style might finally be catching up to him. And the final twist? It's something no one saw coming. The Caitlin Clark conversation isn't just about her. It's about visibility, equity, and who gets to control the story. And somehow, with the LeBron saga still fresh, Stephen S. Smith has found himself right in the middle of it all once again.
Got to keep it out.
Clark, step back, hits a three.
Defensive board or a turnover and push pace.
On a deep three.
Around women's basketball, they understand their impact and what it has done and how they are living out their dreams today.
And right on cue.
It's been the second and third quarter.
And this is where everything completely spirals. Just as the dust was beginning to settle from Stephen A. Smith's showdown with LeBron James, a new star began to rise brighter than ever. Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation talent, a record-breaking scorer, and arguably the biggest name in women's basketball right now. Clark entered the WNBA with more hype than any rookie the league had ever seen. Her jersey sales shot through the roof. Her debut games sold out within minutes. Her highlights were everywhere: ESPN, TikTok, Twitter. But that was just the beginning. Clark didn't just bring energy, she brought results. Ticket sales skyrocketed. TV ratings doubled. Merch was flying off shelves. Cities that had barely paid attention to the WNBA were suddenly locked in. All because Caitlin Clark had stepped onto the court. And as her fame soared, so did the expectations and the pressure. And the reason why, it might just surprise you.
Clark, pull up three, at one. So you love to see that DMV showing out. Clark, and so the best back, triple.
She wasn't going to be able to see Katie Lou after last night's game, so today, really the first time they're saying.
You see, Caitlin Clark wasn't just becoming the face of her team, she was fast becoming the face of the entire league. A white face, and that's where the tension really started to build. While stars like Ajaya Wilson, Raik Ogunboale, and Nika Ogwumike had been holding it down for years. With nowhere near the same level of media attention, Clark was suddenly at the center of it all. Practically overnight, she became the focal point of coverage, conversation, and branding. And whether she asked for it or not, she found herself right in the middle of a deeper conversation, one about race, recognition, and long overdue respect in women's sports. And just when it felt like things couldn't get any more intense, Stephen A. stepped in again. On his show, Smith delivered a passionate defense of Clark. He argued that she was being unfairly targeted, disrespected, and criticized by both fans and fellow players. He pointed to jealousy in the league and demanded that people give her the respect she deserved. But while his intentions may have come from a place of genuine admiration, his words landed like gasoline on an open flame.
Caitlin Clark hasn't spoken against anybody. She hasn't assisted in denying anybody else the privileges they deserve. If anything, she's tried to provide assistance. A rising tide lifts all boats. She's trying to be the rising tide that lifts the boats. And there were sisters resentful of her. Be resentful of the system. Be resentful of the folks, primarily the white folks, who basically disenfranchised y'all all of these years before she came along, who denied you the acclaim and the allure and the profits you richly deserved. But you don't take that out on Caitlin Clark. Not her. She's the one that assists you. When black folks was marching during the civil rights era and fighting every battle they possibly could, they weren't dismissive, nor did they assist in denigrating the white people who marched with them. They saved the venom for those who wouldn't. You don't run away from people who support you. You run to them, especially when they're in a better position than you to help you.
But here's what they're not telling you by throwing such strong support behind Caitlin Clark, while seemingly overlooking the years of grind, exclusion, and underrepresentation that black WNBA stars have endured. Stephen A. opened the door to serious backlash. Players began to speak out. Fans lit up Twitter. Critics accused him of sidelining the contributions of black women just to prop up the league's new poster star. And the wildest part, it's all real. Clark didn't ask for this spotlight. She's just out there playing the game. But her rise has unintentionally brought long-standing tensions in the WNBA to the surface. And Stephen A. Smith, always ready to own the hot take spotlight, found himself right in the middle of a firestorm that could have lasting consequences. Stick around, because what comes next changes everything. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about whose voices we amplify, which stories we choose to tell, and who gets to be celebrated as the standard of excellence. And now, things are starting to get dangerous. Stephen A. has always thrived in chaos. He's built a career on bold takes and controversy, but this time he might have gone a step too far. His impassioned defense of Caitlin Clark, seen by many as dismissive of the work and voices of seasoned WNBA veterans, especially black women, sparked a backlash unlike anything he's faced before. And if you think this ends here, think again.
People are slow rolling their way to a form of progressive thinking that enables them to appreciate the Caitlin Clarks of the world instead of resenting her. Which means, as always, no matter how far we've come, we still have a ways to go.
Social media went into overdrive. WNBA players like A'ja Wilson, Angel Reese, and Natasha Cloud didn't just disagree with Stephen A. They felt deeply disrespected. These women have been grinding for years, pushing through minimal coverage, low pay, and constant battles for visibility, all while helping build the very foundation of the league. Then, suddenly, a white rookie steps onto the scene, and not only does the media swarm, but ESPN's most prominent voice shifts the spotlight her way for many players. It wasn't just a slight, it felt like erasure. And here's where things took a shocking turn. Stephen A. didn't walk anything back. In fact, he doubled down on first take asterisk. He stood by his words, insisting he was misunderstood and that he wasn't taking anything away from other players. But the damage was already done. His refusal to acknowledge the racial dynamics at play didn't calm things down. It only made the fire burn hotter.
What impact has Caitlin Clark already made in her career?
Well, she's had a profound impact on the game. She's elevated the profile of women's basketball because she's a superstar talent. She deserves to get her jersey retired. She deserves to be celebrated at Iowa the way that she did. When I did an event with her and my guy Mark Shapiro in Iowa, that's his alma mater, 11,000 people showed up. I assure you it was not for me. It was for her. This is who she is, and this is what she brings to the table. And then to go to the pro level, basically with no rest, after advancing to the national championship game before losing to Dawn Staley in South Carolina last year, what does she do? She goes out in the WNBA and she balls out there as well, and she ends up being a league MVP candidate as a rookie. This is who she is. She brings big-time play to the equation, big-time attention, and then she steps out. Absolutely no obligation to do so. And she points out the disparity in treatment between her as a white player and black players who preceded her and achieved so much, but lacked the level of recognition she received. Her heart has been in the right place. She deserves major, major kudos for her.
But that was just the beginning. The controversy didn't stay confined to Twitter. It exploded onto primetime TV, CNN, MSNBC. Even the Breakfast Club everyone was weighing in. Former athletes, cultural critics, and journalists all started unpacking Stephen A's comments. Was he calling out media bias or contributing to it? Was he defending Caitlin Clark or unintentionally painting a target on her back? And where exactly is the line between offering a strong opinion and being flat out irresponsible? But wait, it gets even deeper. Corporate partners started getting uneasy behind the scenes. ESPN was reportedly inundated with complaints both from outraged viewers and voices within the WNBA community, and soon the whispers began. Was Stephen A. Smith becoming more of a risk than an asset? Was this really the kind of controversy that sponsors and advertisers wanted their names tied to for the first time in a long time? The king of hot takes was no longer just stirring the pot, he was the one getting roasted.
Them maximizing their great potential. And because we bring that up and talk about what potentially might get in their way, which we do to men all the time, now we got to sit up here and watch every syllable. I resent that, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, so let me, I know we got to go to break. Welcome to the world of being a woman, Stephen A., and how you have to dance about your word choice and you have to please everybody and anybody as you navigate your being. We are talking about the world's greatest
How about being a black man?
Being
black.
Hold on 1 second.
Have you?
So this is what I'm saying to y'all, though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there, and maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. No. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are going to say you know, and Stephen A., I know you just shared that you have talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level. That's all I'm saying in these conversations. Kennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie.
And here's what makes it even more surreal. Caitlin Clark, through absolutely no fault of her own, found herself at the heart of the WNBA's identity crisis. Some fans began pointing fingers at her, blaming her for the backlash, even though she hadn't said a single controversial word. Others went the opposite direction, lifting her up even higher, using the outrage as evidence that she was being unfairly targeted. At this point, it wasn't even about basketball anymore. It had morphed into a full-blown culture war, and what happens next? It might just leave you speechless. Stephen A. Smith, once seen as untouchable, is now walking a razor-thin line. The WNBA community is watching. ESPN is watching. The entire country is watching. One more wrong move, and the man who built his Brand on being the loudest voice in sports could lose everything he spent decades creating.
You didn't hurt Caitlin Clark. You didn't chop at her knees or anything like that, Kennedy Carter. So that's cool. It was a Bush League play. It wasn't a basketball play and all of this other stuff. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is, for you, because I saw reports that you called her the B word before you shoved her in the side, hip checked her. But before, just in case resentment, jealousy, envy, or whatever it is applicable, because I don't know which one it is. Just in case. All I'm saying is, hold up, ladies. There's an opportunity here. Go for it. Let that girl shine. I'm not talking about on the court. You compete against her, you try to take her out. Try to beat her. I get that part. But I'm talking about let that girl shine marketing-wise. Let her get her bag. Find a way to maximize off of it and create an opening for yourself so you can.
And by the end of this saga, it all starts to make sense because this was never just about a hot take. It was about something much bigger. Who gets to shape the narrative? Who gets to be heard? And who gets left behind in the chase for ratings? And here's where the plot really twists. Stephen A. Smith isn't just playing the sports media game anymore. He's playing chess in a much larger arena. While the headlines zero in on his fiery monologues and viral sound bites, the real story is unfolding behind the scenes. He's carefully rebranding himself, not just as a sports analyst, but as a cultural and political voice. Here's what most people completely overlook. Stephen understands something deeper than most pundits ever touch. Sports aren't just about wins, losses, and highlight reels. They're about power, about influence, about unity. No other space in America brings people together across race, gender, class, and ideology quite like sports do. That's why he's making a slow but deliberate pivot. He's shifting from being just the loudest voice in sports to becoming a voice in the broader cultural conversation and the Caitlin Clark controversy. That wasn't just a stumble. It may have been a calculated move to insert himself right at the crossroads of race, gender, and politics, because in today's world, the person who controls the conversation doesn't just influence the game, they shape the culture.
There's a guy by the name of Galen Gordon, who used to be a producer on First Take. He was one of the people who spearheaded highlighting diversity. You as an audience don't know this, but Monica McNutt does. The James Dunn and the David McKinnons of the world and others. These are black men overseeing First Take. My boss, the HNIC, as they say, one of the executives, the top 3 executives at ESPN overseeing First Take, is a black man by the name of Dave Roberts. We have black women, we have white women. Mina Combs, let me not forget to mention her. There's a female host on my show. Anybody trying to let go of Molly? Before her, it was Carrie Champion. Before Numbers Never Lie came along with Jamel Hill, she's on First Take. First Take has spearheaded diversity and equity.
But here's where everything truly shifts. Stephen S. Smith has his sights set on something far bigger than ESPN. Sources close to him say he's exploring a future in the Democratic Party. Not just as a commentator, but as a cultural force, a thought leader, maybe even a political candidate. He's been quietly testing the waters, showing up on panels discussing race relations, education reform, economic disparity, and criminal justice, and every time he's used that moment to send a clear message, I'm more than just sports, Stephen. I isn't just chasing headlines anymore, he's laying groundwork. That viral Caitlin Clark take? It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment rant. It was a strategic power move. By inserting himself into one of the most high-stakes, high-visibility conversations in women's sports, he didn't just stir the pot, he flipped the table. He turned controversy into capital, media heat into political traction. And here's where it gets even crazier. There are whispers of a book deal, rumors of a national speaking tour, even talk of private meetings with potential donors. Steven isn't retreating from the backlash, he's using it as fuel. He's not just staying in the spotlight, he's aiming to own it. Stephen A. Smith is no longer just building a brand, he might be building a campaign.
Look, I'm not pissed to the point where I'm annoyed and I'm going to call people out their names, or especially people that I love, like the person I'm about to talk about in a few minutes. But certain things need to be corrected for the record, because certain things people are just ill-informed about. And the publications that grab the headlines and try to manipulate things and make things seem as if there's something that they're not. I understand that some folks are desperate for clickbait. That's how they do it. They don't care about accuracy. They just care about...
And the final twist, this was never truly about Caitlin Clark. She was the spark, the launch pad. But the real story is about a voice positioning itself to resonate from locker rooms to living rooms, from sports studios to Senate floors. While Stephen A. Smith maps out his next chapter of potential leap into political power, Caitlin Clark is quietly writing a different kind of story. She's focused, locked in, and while the noise swirls around her, she's gearing up for something far more unstoppable, a dominant WNBA season. Because while Stephen A. plays chess with power, Caitlin Clark is about to remind everyone why she earned the spotlight in the first place by letting her game do all the talking.
That easily or that comfortably.
Over that of the season, and Clark. Well, both of Lexi Holmes.
And the best part, she's just getting started. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories, updates, and deep dives into the biggest moments shaping the world of sports and beyond.